is a chief meteorologist with the National Weather Service based in Louisville, and he's going to enlighten you about weather for a brief period, and we'll segue to our third session of the day about weather. And weather is one of those things as club managers, sometimes we put our hands in the air and, well, there's nothing we can do. It rained, it's cold, it's whatnot, and weather has a huge impact on our operations, our golf operations, our aquatic operations, and our club operations as a whole. If it's raining, nobody's at the golf course, nobody's having lunch, nobody's buying merchandise, et cetera, et cetera. And as technology has changed and resources have become available, there's a lot of tools at our disposal that can really help us as managers plan for weather and utilize it, not just for ourselves, but obviously along with our golf course superintendents and other managers in your facility. So that's going to be our third session. We'll get to that at the end of John's presentation, fair to call it. I had the privilege of meeting John last night at dinner, and he is a self-proclaimed and self-proved Masters tournament expert. So feel free to bark out a year, and John will tell you who won and what the weather was at Augusta on Sunday and who made the final putt. So his knowledge was tested, and he lived up to it. So that's a sidebar. But before becoming the chief meteorologist in Louisville, John has had 21 years in the United States Air Force and flew into hurricanes, those brave souls that fly in to get all the weather data, including Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And prior to that, he was opening the brand new National Weather Service office in Huntsville, Alabama. And as mentioned, he is now currently the chief meteorologist at the Louisville, Kentucky National Weather Service location. So without further ado, Mr. John Gordon.
All right, how many of you really like the weather today? Are you happy? If you're really happy, raise your hand. You're happy, good, I'm glad to have you, but a lot of you are not happy. So you're not happy, you can call my boss if you don't like the weather. We're in sales, we're not in production. We're at 1-800-GOD. And weather is a very humbling business. You got the joke, good deal. All right, so I'm gonna show you some stuff as golfers. I'm a golfer myself. My slides? Slides? Oh, I got it, okay. All right, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Clint Eastwood fans out there. So, I'm a golfer too, and I love bad weather. And Tom Watson played perhaps the best round 1979 at the Memorial Tournament. It was in the rain, temperatures were in the 40s, we had 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts at Memorial. Yep. And it was 10 strokes better than the rest of the field. He said, this really wasn't a big deal. I usually play like this in Kansas City. This is no big deal. Everyone else was ticked off and hated it. Weather has a profound impact on your business. Big time. Everything changes. I was talking to David. Where are you, David? Mr. USGA. I was talking to you. Remember Hazeltine, 91? Everything changed from the lightning strike at Hazeltine in 91 at the Open. So we're going to show you some stuff here. First of all, I'm going to promote my side of the business. Colin will talk about his. We have 122 weather field offices in the Weather Service. One's in Taunton, down the road here. I was hearing what Coach Belichick had to say about the weather people, which is very amusing on YouTube. I don't know if I saw Coach Belichick where he gets his weather information from, but I have some ideas where I could help him make a better decision for the Patriots. By the way, the game, second half, rain. Cloudy, if you're going to the game, rain gear. Not going to be good. Hopefully good for the Patriots, but weather. But anyway, this is my country right here. I cover Central Kentucky. Kentucky's a strange state. People make fun of us all the time about the number of teeth we have. But in Kentucky, we have 5 weather service offices because there's 120 counties, 120 kingdoms in Kentucky. It's very interesting. We can serve 2 time zones. And things have changed over the years. The old weather people, folks like Willard Scott was the highest paid weatherman in America for years. How much does Willard Scott know about weather? Al Roker is now currently the most highest paid weather person in America. How much does he know about weather? Diane Sawyer did the weather in Louisville, Kentucky. David Letterman, anyone remember where he did it? Indianapolis, Pat Sajak. Anyone remember? By Vol, Wheel Fortune, he was in Nashville. So that's how it's evolved now. If you're in weather now, you have got to have a meteorology degree, period. You want to be a meteorologist? Here you go. It's your big chance. Weather is very humbling. All the old weather people are either bald, have wigs, stress, there's everything you can imagine. For the folks who, how many watch the Weather Channel? Weather Channel, 1979, used to do weather. I'm not sure they're doing as much weather as they used to. Now we have stock quotes, pop culture. We just saw a brand new porcupine that's pink or something. They show everything on the earth that you could possibly get. I want to watch weather personally. But in the old days, we used to bring a coloring box to work. This was the observation table. We recorded weather radio recordings on an 8-track TV, 8-track, and then we were in a dark room. We did radar in a room that was completely dark for 10 hours. Things have changed. And now we have a high technology in Boston. I heard last night, let's check Doppler 6000. I think that's hilarious. Doppler 1 million. I mean, they think we're the most powerful Doppler. We can blow your TV set up. You know, it's just so funny. I'm just amazed at all the stuff they have. So we're 24/7. We make those, but we don't close. We're there all the time. We're there on New Year's. We're there on Christmas. We're on every shift, 3 shifts a day. We work with partners, emergency managers. Val Haller called me last year before the PGA Championship, wanted all this relative humidity and dew point data. Glad to give them that. We work hard for your taxpayer dollars. I give you the best forecast you can get, period. Now, my philosophy is to get the forecast right for the first 3 days, right? Today, in Boston, do I need a scraper? Do I need a coat? Is it going to snow? And then we got folks that do 20-day forecasts. We can't even get today right. I mean, it's so unbelievable. So if you believe, and you're wherever you are in America, that in 20 days it's going to be 75 degrees in Indianapolis, you're smoking crack. All right, across the nation, when I was in Columbia, and thank you so much, Bruce, for having me. Bruce has been a great friend, and I'm really enjoying this. Apps. This is just John G's opinion. Colin's going to give you some more. I think the best weather app for you at your club, it costs $9.95. I don't get a penny, so don't think I'm making a profit here, is Radar Scope. It's just $9.95. And you can zoom down to your house. It gives you a basic presentation. It puts all the warnings up. You know, in the old days, you'd be driving down the road, right? There's a tornado warning for Smith County. And you say to your wife or husband, where the hell is Smith County? You know what now? Radar Scope's taking that away. Very easy to use, and Colin's going to promote his stuff. I'm just telling you what I like. We used to bring coloring boxes and basic primitive data, and now we have computer models that go out in 10 days. We issue all our watch warnings, all our graphical products from one main system, and it's very, very easy to use. In our office, I know I'm going to get this question, so I'll knock this out. We have to forecast all kinds of parameters out to 7 days. Like I said, 7-day forecast is drier, wetter, cooler, drier, okay? I'm trying to get the forecast right for you golfers. As Bill Clinton said, I just want to know if I can go grading today. I want to play golf. So, anyway, you wanted a little humor, didn't you? All right, this is probably the most complicated thing in all of weather, the probability of precipitation. How many of you really know what it really means? Thank you very much. I'm not sure most of the weather people know either. But 30% chance of rain means at your particular place, of getting 1/100th of an inch of precipitation at any given spot. We were talking last night, right? Who was that at our table that said that? Is that Liz? Right, 20. She says, well, Jacksonville said that 20% of the people are going to get rain today. I'm like, no, that's not what it means. That was a TV meteorologist. Supposed meteorologist, right? Your son said, does he not look out the window? No. All right, we use webcams now. Everything's changed. This may shock you. We get a lot of lies from reports. There's a tornado at my house. There's 6 inches of snow when there's a skip. People exaggerate on social media like nuts. We had the FBI get involved in Wisconsin. This guy called in 12 different tornado reports. Really? I have not seen one in my life. So, I mean, he saw 12. That's pretty amazing. They're called Ripley's. Social media is getting bigger and bigger in weather. It is amazing. The TV meteorologists of the past had to come in and do the 6 and 11 o'clock news. Now they do the 4:30, the 5, the 5:30, the 6, and as soon as the national comes back, they do the 7, the 7:30. I don't want that much news, for God's sakes. But they have to do the blog, the Twitter, Facebook. They have to do webcasts, and it's pretty amazing. It's really changed. All right, for New England, what is the hottest temperature ever recorded in New England? 101, 103, 105, 107. How many A's? B's? C's? A lot of C's, a lot of D's. How many D's? Always pick C, really? D! 107. In 1912 in Vernon, Vermont. In 1975 in Chester, Massachusetts, and also New Bedford, Massachusetts. And that's a big deal. We were talking earlier, Dave and I were talking about drought. There's a cyclical phase with droughts across the world. And when it comes to you, it is bad news. It is not good. I don't know how, from West Texas, I have no idea how golf clubs can even imagine right now how bad it is. There's 5 categories of drought. The worst one is exceptional, and they've been exceptional for how long? 4 years? Yeah, 4 or 5 years. It's terrible there. The earth is crumbling in West Texas. So I think it's got bad here. So on our website, you go to weather.gov, you click anywhere on this map. If it's white, nothing's going on. If there's a color, things are bad. In this case, we got a severe thunderstorm watch across the area and a severe thunderstorm warning down by Bowling Green, Kentucky, where they make the Corvettes. And you get on that map, you click on a point. I clicked on Lexington, home of the UK. And you get a 7-day forecast that's text-based or graphical. You get the radar, the satellite, everything you want. The Weather Service, I'm not going to compete against Colin and his stuff, but what they do, we're trying to give you the basic facts like Jack Webb on Dragnet. Give you the weather, give you the facts. What you need to do, the golf superintendent, or whatever, okay? For ladies in the room, I have to tell this joke, Bruce likes this, but we get at least 3 calls a week from a mother of a bride about a July wedding, a June wedding, an August wedding. Yes, my daughter Susan's getting married in June. Is it going to rain? And what's the forecast? How the hell do I know? I have no idea. So I have a hard enough time telling you it's going to snow today in Boston. Okay, so we have to do a lot of graphical products. We have to do 7 days of all these things. Maximum temperatures, the probability of precipitation, any weather. That's fog, mist, snow, drizzle, anything. Smoke, wind gusts, sky cover, all this stuff. Relative humidity. By the way, relative humidity means nothing. It's fictitious. Don't ever tell me there's 100% relative humidity outside. Dew point is the most important thing, especially for the golf superintendent. Dew point is everything. It is the true measure of the amount of moisture there is. That's a good thing to learn for golf superintendents. Right? Yeah. Okay, my area, topography is everything. In my area here, I got 300 foot in the western part of my area. Over the east, I got 1,600 feet. In New England, it's so much worse there in New England. The white mountains and the green mountains and all, very bad. And across that area, we go back, you can get a 30-degree temperature difference in the fall. And in the white and green mountains, it's much higher. Okay, we do a lot of detailed forecasts for specific emergency management customers, like the Bluegrass Army Depot, where they dispose chemical weapons. So we have a bat phone. Basically, they call us. They want to know the wind speed, direction, humidity within 10 seconds. Because some bad stuff's going to go up in the air. That's the kind of stuff the Weather Service of the future is going to do a lot more of the detailed on-site support for hazmat. Actually, one of my former students works in the Taunton office. She won the gold medal for the Weather Service because she was supporting the Boston Marathon when the terrible terrorism happened. And she worked in the command post for 15 hours doing social media. Because nobody in the command post knew how to do social media. I don't even want to raise a hand. How many can do social media? The older crowd. So. All right, what's the coldest temperature recorded in New England? Not counting Mount Washington. And by the way, the reason I got into weather is because some great events in the 70s. The New England blizzard of 78. How many people remember that? Right? And the stories of the legendary Mount Washington, the highest wind speed ever on the earth of 234 miles per hour. Anyone knew that? Okay, so is it minus 40, minus 45, minus 50, minus 55? And any ideas where? A's, B's, C's, D's. Here we go. Minus 50 was C. You were right. Always fix it. And that's in Big Black River, Maine. I don't know where that is, or Bloomfield, Vermont. You guys who know that, that's where it was. Fact or fiction? Flooding is the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. Fact or fiction? I always thought it was fact too. But the combination of heat kills more people anywhere on the earth. The problem is that most cities and communities do not have a full-time coroner. And to be classified as a death, you need a full-time coroner. So heat is very, very problematic to quantify. And snow too, the temperature thing. There are so many people who die in a snowstorm, either from having a heart attack shoveling, to having heat stroke on a run or whatever. They're very, very problematic. But heat across the world kills more than anything. But if you look at non-temperature issues, flooding is by far the most. We'll get to that. And this chart here is a heat death. But then you have these big storms from floods and tornadoes that kill much. But heat is very, very hard to quantify. And in Kentucky, in 2012, we had a big tornado outbreak. In 97, we had a big flood outbreak. Other than that, most years it's heat. Okay, across the world, 2005, why are so many people damaged? What happened in 2005? Katrina. How many of you believe that Katrina hit New Orleans? Raise your hand. This is the smartest group I've ever been to. New Orleans was never hit by Katrina. It was a massive engineering disaster. Massive engineering disaster. Now, the east side of New Orleans was definitely hit over there towards the Mississippi state line. Very good. Two kinds of floods. University of Louisville, flash flood. We had 7.5 inches of rain in an hour and a half. This is 15 feet higher than the road. The road's down here somewhere. And then we have river flooding. River flooding can profoundly affect the golf course if you are near a body of water. Any of your clubs ever have problems with rivers? You check the flood stages daily? You guys should check your flood stages. If you're near a body of water, you should check the nearest point to that river and look at the flood stages. It's on the Weather Service website. If you don't know, I'll show you. It's another good tool to have. Yeah, that's, oh, by the way, that was golf course. Did I forget to mention that? Oh, yeah. Oh, now, oh, can't mark it that day, can you? Would you like to come today? Oh, I'm sorry, my course is underwater. Sorry, just a little humor there. Okay. I love to show this picture, especially in Louisville, because we had a big tornado in '74, but the biggest disaster ever in the city of Louisville was the 1937 flood, which basically changed the Ohio River from Pittsburgh all the way down past Louisville. And the flood stage in Louisville is at 50 feet. I want you to think about this. 50 feet. The flood hit 85 feet. That means from the point where the water stirs floods, 35 water. Think about that. Like Irene damage up in Vermont. This guy here went across a flooded barricade, drove around it, and is dead. So here's my next thing to write down your tip. So turn around, don't drown. Never, ever, ever drive through a flooded stretch of road. Ever, ever. You want to do it? Oh, okay. All right. You look like excited. Like, I do that. Okay. All right. Don't do that. Turn around. There you go. All right. In 2011, almost every stream in Vermont, I need a Vermont person. Who's from Vermont? Right here? All right, let's do it. Here we go. 2011, every stream in Vermont flooded as a result of Irene. Vermont recorded a 24-hour record of 9.92 in 1999, which was caused by which hurricane in 99? Oh, that's wrong. Oh, you just lost the money on Final Jeopardy. It's all gone. Anyone else? Very good. Floyd. Who said Floyd? Excellent. Well done. That's from Simpson. Excellent. Okay. All right, you want a little humor? We got you. You're going there. Good. All right. So we work with emergency managers and broadcasters to put out a very reliable forecast. Our big job is the high impact events, the Irene events, the Ivan events, the big tornado event, to get information out. So, fact or fiction? Lightning is 5,000 degrees. Fact or fiction? Fiction. Very good. It is 50,000 degrees. This is a slide that all golfers seem to pay attention to, so let's pay attention. The household appliances have 110 volts. Lightning is 100 million volts. The average appliance has less than 10 amps. Lightning is 30,000 amps. You touch your stove, it's 500 degrees, lightning's 50,000 degrees. And this is the big stuff. We were talking about this earlier with David from New Hampshire. Lightning can bolt from the blue before and ahead of the main storm, are a big threat to your golfer. I use the 30-30 rule. Wait 30 minutes the last time you hear it or see it, and you will live. You guys blow the sirens, and they won't come off the course. As long as you blow the siren, get off the course. Lightning is 50,000 degrees. Okay, you don't believe me? Next slide. You help me, John. All right, where do most lightning deaths occur? Field, under trees, water, golf. And here's my favorite one, golf and trees. It's not bad enough you have golf, you have trees. That's the other 2%. They covered both, A and B. You hit C, all of the above, right? You got to get off the course, folks, and your staff. I'll use superintendents. Get your staff off the course. You guys have sirens? Good. Glad you're here. Okay, and don't be touching water. That's a real sink. That's a laundry sink. Okay, don't do that. Avoid plumbing. Landline phones attached to the wall. Not good. Or as George Bush Sr. would say, not good, very bad, don't do it. So, okay, if caught outside during lightning, lie flat on the ground to avoid being the tallest object. Fact or fiction? Correct. Crouch down, get the smallest target you can be. That hits, lightning hits that concrete ground, it's hot. Not good. You hear thunder? You're close enough to be struck by lightning. All right, fact or fiction? It's not raining, there's no danger from lightning. Correct. You strike away, long way away. 19. How many people remember this? Trevino. 1975. And 2 others were struck at the Western Open in Chicago. David? Lightning flashed off the lake, traveled up the metal club, went up his back, out his shoulder. He had burn marks on the shoulder and permanent damage to his lower back. He recovered enough to play and won several majors. It's serious stuff. There's a guy here in Cape Cod who was struck by lightning. He's got a website, struckbylightning.org. Michael Utley, he was at Cape Cod golf course somewhere. 30 years old, whole life changed forever. Anyone know him? This is lightning right here in this tree. In Winston-Salem, 6 guys at a rock quarry got together. They saw lightning coming. They hid in a shed. The problem was the shed had all the dynamite. They're all dead. So think about where you're going to go. Lightning has. In 1987, lightning struck and killed 3 people playing golf in Kingsport, Tennessee. The men had sought shelter from the rain under a tall tree on a small hill. Check, check, check. Not good. Lightning's the first hazard to arrive and the last one to leave. Think about that. Last one. Would you read that as loud as you can?
Number 1, 1979, lightning strikes a home in Centerville, Tennessee, completely destroying it. It's the 3rd time the house is hit since being built 9 years earlier.
Yeah, bad stuff. Lightning roars. Go indoors. When lightning roars, go indoors. There we go. We're gonna wrap up here. Severe thunderstorms are not as dangerous as tornadoes. Fiction. They're just as serious. They can produce hail, large wind, lightning, everything. Like there's thunderstorms, the tornado, and that's the Henryville tornado. So I give you this as we wrap up here. Land. Get to the lowest floor. Stay away from windows. Get to the middle of the house and protect yourself. If you don't want to get by hitting tornadoes in New England, I have something to tell you. Worcester, Massachusetts, 1953, where almost 100 people died. So when a warning goes out, take them seriously. I'm going to skip that. Pete, if the panelists for the weather section want to come up here, there's about 3 slides left. Whoever's with me, come on up. This is a big deal. I'm sure on your courses you have problems from heat and heat exhaustion. Keeping water on the course is everything, not only for your golfers, but for your staff. Very irritating when I can't get water and I'm dying out there. So one big thing I've been working on is trying to protect kids, because people leave their kids in cars that are foolishly. We have beat the heat, check the back seat. One thing you can look at is the heat index, and that's really important, the humidity and the temperature. And it's just so important. I can't emphasize enough, gang, to really protect your staff and your folks. So heat is really, really bad. And beat the heat, check the back seat. I'm a modest man. I'm modest at TWC.com if you want to contact me. I hope you enjoyed this dynamic talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And John's obviously joining our panel this afternoon, along with Dave Otis. We appreciate doing double duty. And Colin Perry from Perry Weather Consulting. So that's our panel for this afternoon, talking about weather and how it impacts our course operations and our club operations. As we mentioned briefly earlier, weather is something we really don't talk about. We kind of take it as it comes. There's not much we can do about it. But really, as we were developing an agenda for this session with club managers, golf professionals, superintendents, that come up with a core curriculum that really affects us all, weather kind of seemed like a no-brainer. And with John's segue into this, it worked perfectly. So thank you for that. And you spouted off a lot of information, a lot of data. Colin, Dave, any remarks to that, or some opening thoughts about weather and how it can affect our lives as club professionals?
Well, I had a couple of real quick questions. Quick ones. Number one, I saw in the early slides of the old radio rooms, the weather forecasting, there were no windows. And then modern stations do have windows and webcams. So I'm wondering if your improvement in forecasting is due to the equipment of the window.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when it pertains to golf, specifically in safety, lighting is huge. I think the awareness of, you know, weather education is just very low. And so understanding that lightning can, you know, strike you up to 10 miles away, and that, you know, yes, you can hear kind of thunder coming from a ways away, but there's a lot of other things going on that you may not be able to. So whether you've installed some sort of system, you know, on top of your clubhouse that's going to be alerting you guys, doing something like that, every single golf course, whether it's public or private, needs to have something being done proactively that they're getting alerted of real-time lightning strikes. And the myth is that, well, I can go on weather.com or any other free website to find that information, and that's just, in my experience, is not at all. You can find lightning on that radar scope. It won't alert you, and it's not, you know, as high resolution as you can get, but there are other things. We have an app called Pocket Perry that does something like that, but there are a lot of other resources that do that and will alert you guys proactively, and I think that's something that it just blows my mind that a lot of courses just aren't looking into that. It doesn't strike here a lot, you know, really only takes that one strike though, so.
Dave, from the USGA's perspective, John alluded to obviously lightning incident in Hazeltine in '91. More recently, we remember the washout event page a few years back where unknown how many inches of rain fell and how they had to keep up with that. From the USGA's perspective, kind of give us some background on, with all the national championships you run, not from only a preparation standpoint, but when the event actually comes and how you're adjusting the weather on the fly and resources you're using and how it affects player safety and how quickly course conditions can change.
Years ago, we would actually bring in college interns to be our meteorologists for our national championships. And that was probably not a good idea. But it is now. In retrospect, you think, oh my God, why did we think that was a good idea? But we didn't have a meteorologist before then, so that was an improvement. But with those well-publicized events, obviously the liability involved, and just wanting to do the right thing. For quite a number of years now, I couldn't do the actual year, but we hire a meteorology company that comes in, and so we have an on-site meteorologist at every site, and they are put in a dark room with every piece of equipment they want and can use, and so they're in constant contact with our SIC, which is the staff in charge, and we get daily, sometimes hourly, even more frequently, updates on what's happening, what's likely to happen. But even before we get to the site, we spend years, depending on the championship, getting ready for it, for all the reasons you guys didn't know from the playability standpoint, but also from weather. What you don't know about Bethpage is it's probably not a good idea to have a championship at a course with river in the name of it. That's not a good idea. The other thing is Bethpage is built around Round Swamp Road. That's probably also should have been a assigned to us that might be a problem. We actually did a ton of work on drainage prior to that open, and it never got any press, but none of the bunkers washed out because we put a lot of effort into building them to withstand heavy rain events. And we also had large pumps on site. At my urging, actually, I had to fight a couple of battles to get this one in the event that we got inundated with rain. And of course, we never figured we would, but by golly, we did. So we do a ton of work before we even get there. For every championship, we have a formalized evac plan. It's discussed, it's at length and worked out. We have vans or buses of some sort parked at appropriate intervals so that we can get the entire golf course evacuated. We have drivers ready, and all of our rules officials out on the course, and with usually each group have radios. So we alert the rules officials that there may be an impending weather event, so they're prepared. They actually will warn the golfers if we're going to suspend play. We don't want to blow the horn in the middle of somebody's putting stroke or backswing. So the groups are sort of alerted when they start at the next hole or perhaps in the middle of the hole that we may be suspending play. So it's really an orchestrated, very well thought out plan. Not saying it couldn't be better, but we take it real seriously. And you know, as I said, can be a minute by minute actually decision making process. And the people involved are obviously the meteorologist, who's ever the SIC, the staff in charge of the championship, all the officials at the course. It might be the tournament chairman, it may be the general manager. Always the superintendent is involved, and always the economist. And so once the weather event occurs, I will tell you, a few years ago, USJ staff frequently stayed out on the golf course. And I frequently stayed out through weather events that I should not have. And we have a new policy. Everybody exits the course. And so we actually also institute a check system. We have a count-off system for the players, the caddies, the rules officials. But I generally work with the superintendent to make sure all the maintenance staff is off. Because if it's a lightning deal, you don't want to be running around making sure everybody's off. And that has happened on occasion. And then we don't go back on until we get the all clear. And then we assess and see what we have to do to prep the course to get it back into play. And these are all things that we've discussed way ahead of time. We have a worst case scenario section in my golf course preparation memos that, you know, what if we have all this rain? You tell me the course doesn't flood, but you know, sometimes it actually does. So we'll have pumps ready, we'll have pump crews organized and ready, and we'll even have crews come in from adjacent golf courses, or we'll be on call to come in on occasion. So we take it real seriously. We try to cover all our bases, but quite honestly, I'm anxious to hear what you guys say to see if there's some other bases that we probably should.
I love what they're doing. Just think, before 1991, the USGA, what did you do before 91? Really, honestly.
Everybody carried one irons because not even God.
I know.
Sorry. I had to use that.
Lee Trevino again. Yeah, I mean, it is amazing that the tragedy, and does anyone remember the Hazeltine incident? Payne Stewart's victory up there? Yeah, I mean, that, just imagine that nothing, they had no weather plan. And now the USGA has amazing plans now. Everything he's saying is just spectacular. I'll challenge you in the audience. Can you pull up the slide? The first slide? This is my segue. This should get things going. No. That one, okay. You're an event planner, okay? Who's an event planner? Give me an event planner. Okay, in the back right. All right, you're an event planner, and you are right here at the TPC in Boston. Okay? You got an event. You got 1,000 people there, and you're going to be there all afternoon. This is now 3:09. Do you do anything? It's right here. You see that? Do you at your event? Do you do anything?
Yeah.
What do you do? That's good. Is that reality for all of you in the room? If you're a club professional or you're an event planner, do you really do what he just said? How many of you exactly do that? That's what I thought. That's why this is a good discussion. Because the next slide, I'll get off here. The next, get one more.
You're the star, John. So
The next one. Now they put a warning out. Okay, for the folks who did not raise their, they have done nothing yet. Now there's a warning out. Do you do anything? What do you do? How many? Is that unanimous? If you're not unanimous, raise your hand. That's great. Look at the next slide, one more. These are all the wind and hail reports that occurred in the next hour, all in this area, including TPC Boston. So just think about that when you have the next event, whether or not you got the member gas, whatever you have. That's my big thing for you guys. This thing should scare the living bejeebers out of you if you don't have a plan. No, thank you.
Just a question of the audience. We talk about strategic plan for our operations. Does anyone have a weather strategic plan for that exact case? Saturday, member guest, and there's a tornado warning and you're gonna get hit in 20 minutes. Just a show of hands, does anyone have a strategic plan related to weather? Interesting. In relation to weather prepping and as club managers, for Colin and for John and Dave to jump in, maybe discuss a little bit how reading radars on our desktops and mobile devices aren't as obvious as they may seem, and maybe some.
Yeah, I mean, equipping you guys with the right tools like radar scope and things like that of high definition that you know, most of us understand that maybe the darker colors are of higher signature or heavier rainfall or stronger winds. But we all know that you guys are golf professionals, you're not trained meteorologists. So there is skill and there's an art, and that's why John and I are doing what we do to understanding radar. But educating yourselves, because it is that important to what you guys do and the safety of your golfers, is very important. Just like educating yourself on how to run your business more efficiently. And so I would say that, you know, reach out to your National Weather Service, reach out to a private company. They would love to educate you. We do that with school districts all the time. I'm saying these are the 3 things that you should look out for, because sometimes people wait for that tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning. And most people may not even know the difference between a watch and a warning. They say they do, but they couldn't give you the definition. And when you've got 1,000 people in an event, you can't wait for a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning to get issued, because it's just there's just not enough time to get everyone off the golf course. So knowing things beforehand is extremely valuable. So, and the tools are out there. It just takes a little bit of understanding and research.
So with that, Colin, as someone who specializes in helping clubs with long-term forecasts and weather and how it can impact operations, this day and age with technology has evolved with weather planning and forecasting. Is it almost irresponsible for club professionals to take a view of weather as, well, there's nothing we can do about it. If it rains, it rains, or if it snows, it snows. Mother Nature's going to do what Mother Nature does. There's some ways that we can kind of beat that from the punch and have a stake in the game and not just have to take it.
I mean, I would say absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing, but I feel like, you know, the big thing that we've harped on is data, right? Are we really mining through the data that's already there? So we don't even have to think about going into the future. We need to see how our golf course and how our golfers behave towards specific weather. So, you know, whether it's a system like ours that measures basically how historical weather at your exact golf course matches with specific sales that you guys have generated, and finding those patterns so that you can understand how your golfers react to specific weather from a quantitative perspective, that's huge. I mean, everyone knows and understands that, yes, weather impacts what we do, and it hurts us or it helps us, but how does that quantitatively impact you? What is the dollar sign? So when you look at a forecast that John and his folks put out, you know, what does 65 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds, what does that mean to a dollar sign to you? Because, yeah, it's probably going to hurt you, but what does that mean going into the future? Should we not make certain, you know, agronomical decisions? Should we hold off on planning a big event? Should we try to push it earlier or later? I mean, these are tangible things that can be done that can really help success of whether it's an event or just overall management of what you guys are doing.
Not only, that's a great point, Colin, not only from a financial point, the job of the Weather Service is the protection of life and property. You and your staff and your members are the most important thing of all to me. So some of you in the audience may be thinking, well, it's not going to happen. I live in Maine. It's not going to happen. I live in Rhode Island. Anyone ever heard of the country band Sugarland? You know what happened at Indiana State Fair? How many of you remember that? There's still lawsuits going on there, and there's several dead people. You've got to have a plan of action. I don't know if it's a strategic plan, but you've got to have a plan of action at your club. Because in 1953, Worcester, Massachusetts was not ready. And how many of you remember the tornadoes in Springfield, Mass? Just a few years ago. So when I know that weather people over sensationalize it, right?
Yes.
TV weather hypes. Every storm's going to be worse than the last storm. But there are tools to educate you, and what Colin said is exactly right. You've got to, if you don't know how to read the radar, someone from the Weather Service, I guarantee, will be glad to come out. Someone from WeatherBug, maybe your local TV meteorologist will come out to your club. That'd be a big hit. People show up. Most of them would love that, especially if you feed them a lunch like this. This was a grand slam, Danny. This is one of the best lunches of my life. And I'm telling you, I swear to God, the most important thing you learn from this session is have a plan of action. I cannot tell you the number of people who have died driving around a flooded stretch of road. People have been killing golf courses from lightning. I mean, there's just so many tragedies that are necessary. And I know that the website, the Darwin Awards, is funny, but it's really not funny if you know that person.
Great. A question to all of you, all three of you, a broad-based question, but you know, climate change is a whole other issue that we can talk about, and snowier winters and drier, hotter summers, but also limitations that we as club managers, superintendents are facing. We talked earlier today about limiting water usage, limited use of chemicals, pesticides, not only weather impacts, but environmental and environmental law impacts that affect our course operations. As managers, you know, where do you see the future with weather, not only with weather trends and how we plan and predict weather, but how we plan for it, how we budget for it, while not only combating changing climate, but also changing governmental regulations that are an even bigger hamper on providing a product that our members expect. And as we talked to earlier about green is gold, but it's not, it's perception. So maybe just right down the road here, or bounce around here, thoughts on that?
Well, I'll jump in quick, and then you guys are the weather experts. I'm not sure why I'm up here. Maybe it's because I have a pretty face, or I'm preset.
We bribed you with the lunch.
That's right. The one thing constant in turf management, from my perspective, is that we always seem to be putting more stress on the turf. And that's why we have to go to such great lengths to keep turf alive. And that means practices, products, you name it. We employ it, and we sort of manipulate turf more so than grow it, which was probably what we did 20 or 30 years ago. So the result of this is we keep a lot of wheatgrass alive. We end up winding up with a lot more wheatgrass. And it doesn't die on its own. It doesn't commit suicide. It's usually a weather event that causes the failure. And last year it was the winter that caused catastrophic turf damage all across the upper Midwest and the Northeast. But we've had so many bad summers, too many to count, 2005, 2006. So the impact that I see it having on turf is, number one, I don't see the stress level on turf really being reduced too much in the future because of golfer demand. So we have to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best. But that really goes back to some of the things we talked about earlier today, thinking about regrassing greens, regrassing fairways, perhaps even rebuilding to get modern construction techniques. A club that was at the precipice of rebuilding the greens a number of years ago in Connecticut asked me a profound question, totally took me by shock. And their question was, Dave, how many classic old courses in the Northeast region have rebuilt all their greens? There was a long silence because I could not give them an answer. I said, I've got to think about this, and I've got to contact my colleagues. So that evening, shot out an email, and the answer came from one of our agronomists in the Southeast region who said, Dave, in the Southeast region, now mind you, that's where stress levels are much higher than they are, and for a longer period than they are here in the Northeast, there's not one classic old course that has not rebuilt. Many have done it twice because maybe they didn't get it right the first time. So as weather gets more extreme, whether you believe it or not, as cutting heights go down and stress levels stay higher, we need to do more for the turf to improve reliability. A point that I really meant to make this morning, I did not. If you don't have reliability, you don't have anything. And when you have old grasses, old construction methods, you don't have so much reliability.
I'll say something about climate change, which is one of my least favorite topics on this earth. Is people get all emotional. At the American Meteorological Society conference, it's like a pay-per-view event. People get so mad they bring security in. Because there are people on the far left who forge climate data during climate games. They change data, not your soil gains. I learned a lot about your soil, how do you measure it. They change the data. Then you got the people on the far right who are complete denial. So how do you get those two together? So here's the deal. Here's my perspective on climate change. There is climate change. So, I mean, you can go back in the hurricane records, the 1600s. You can see hurricane activity like this. You guys remember Hurricane Bob? He hadn't been hit since Bob. Old Irene came. It's about a 20-year cycle in New England. It's about a 20-year cycle. There's a strong hurricane that's near New England. You can go back to historical data, okay? So, and you can see where there's been droughts and there's been floods and there's been this. There is a cycle, okay? And planning for those cycles is prudent. Is it not, Colin?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would say that as I would agree, you know, it's not a topic that I like to talk about, but it seems to always come up. But I think the big thing is that the volatility of weather is not going to get any easier. It's going to be more confusing. But that just brings my point that I brought up at the beginning of data. So the data is out there, the information is out there, just like sales and point of sales and all of that thing that you guys have talked about tracking. I think it's time that we start looking into, if the volatility of weather is not going to stop, then we need to look at how exactly is weather impacting our business from the dollars. And I think, you know, ways that we can, if you put up a slide, I threw up a slide, I got an email, the next one is good. You know, this is what just a clothing company is doing, you know, the whole polar vortex, right? We've all heard of that, and it's comical to us, but it's something because it's been around forever, but they're extremely strategic in what they're doing, right? They're a clothing company that says, you know, we shouldn't be selling these items at the beginning of October, but we have a big cold snap, and so we're going to send this email blast out with a couple of these buzzwords, and this is going to start generating traffic. And so it's looking at weather in a completely different way than you've ever thought about. And then the next slide shows kind of trends of kind of what we've been talking about, of how a forecast matches with your revenue. And some of these odd spikes kind of in the middle that don't match up probably have to do with outings or stuff like that, but that the relationship is extremely, extremely interesting and close. That, you know, you guys all know that revenue is driven by whether the weather is good or not, but how is that? And I think this is just a very easy graph that shows that relationship. And it's not a perfect one-to-one, but those are things that are going to show that going into the future, how do we then predict or forecast how our bottom line is going to be affected? So just educating yourself on that would be my thought.
A question I have for the audience, you know, for the club managers in the room, we all think amongst ourselves, talk about our BMI experiences in conference and how rewarding those are, the collaboration of ideas and experience sharing. Does anyone have a weather story they want to share about maybe something that hit their club or an event they had that got hit by severe weather or anything that, you know, I know David has a little story about a tornado. Rural New Hampshire. Similar question?
Yeah, this blew the horns, everyone came off the course, and someone was putting their golf bag into their trunk of their car, and lightning struck the tree next to the car, blew the person up in the air, literally off her feet, and when she landed, broke her ankle. So you're right, you just can't get people off the course fast enough.
You said something really interesting. You said everyone came off when you blew the horns. I have a question to all the clubs out there. When you guys blow, how many of you have a lightning horn system? Okay, how many of you do not? Let's try that way. How many of you do not? Okay. All right, the ones who do. So you blow the siren. You said everybody came off?
Everybody came off.
Everybody go. How many times, somebody's telling me this earlier, can you say it? You said when you blow the horns, you can't get people off the course? Absolutely. How many % will not come off the course?
I'd say probably 20.
How about the rest? Will everyone come off the course, or do you have problems getting them off?
1 or 2 will hang on.
1 or 2, yeah, the diehards. Yeah. I mean, that's the big deal. I'm glad to hear yours is a success story.
I also think that the incoming front was so defined and so dark that there was no question.
Okay.
I think in those times when there's blue sky one way and dark clouds another way, then we do have problems getting people on the course.
Lightning is your enemy, gang. I went on a tour of the old State House yesterday. Loved it. And they told me about James Otis. Anyone remember James Otis in your history and everything? He predicted 10 years before he died he was going to get killed by lightning. And he was struck by lightning. He dead. He died from lightning. I mean, it's really wild. I was just like stunned at this story. And lightning, that lady, the person that dropped in their bag, could have died easily.
And I think to your point, the question I would ask is, are people safer out in the parking lot than they are in the golf course, even if there's lightning, right? No. So just because you get them off the golf course doesn't mean that they're safe. So, thinking about this as, okay, they're still holding a metal rod, whether they're in their backyard or whether they're at your golf course, they're still on your property. And it's still something that, you can only do what you can do, right? You can only get them off as much as you can, but saying, hey, Ms. Lofton, it probably isn't the greatest idea to go take your clubs out. Why don't we hang on and we'll get one of our assistants to walk you out with there. And then they feel more safe that you guys have thought of. So it's just a thought.
Then you put your staff at risk.
That's right.
Well, you wait till the all clear, but it's
Let them get wet.
Right, that's a great point that you made. For the event planners, you got an event, right? How many of you use those big tents, right? You got those big tents, right? Think those tents lightning? No, Anheuser-Busch a couple of years ago. Remember that thing by the Cardinals game? They're all waiting for the Cardinals. We gotta go Cardinals. We're all excited. And the tents got blown away by 50-mile winds, but flying everywhere. Were people injured? You're not safe with those tents. That's why I'm trying to get you event planners and boats. Those are not safe. I mean, how many of those press box for the USGA? You've got this amazing
Cities, we build a city, and we've had problems with them. Senior Open a couple of years ago, fences went over and whatnot. So here's my question for you two guys. Now, we're talking to an audience that has, relatively speaking, a lot of capital to do something about this. But what about the Little League coach or the lacrosse coach? Because my coaching days are over, but I remember being terrified with 20 or 30 kids out there with aluminum bats or lacrosse sticks, not having any idea when we should blow the horn. What are the tools for minimal money that I should have?
Yeah.
And for the maintenance staff, when golfers aren't around or that you don't have a system, what are the tools that we should have for minimal money?
I mean, since it's asked, I'll put the plug in, but we developed a mobile application that answers that exact question. So from a big 6A high school all the way down to your club soccer, how do we get that same pertinent information, because they're just as valuable as human being as these golfers here, how do we get that information to them? So the mobile application allows the coach, the trainer, the golf course to set a location, set a proactive 30-mile, 25-mile radius, and if lightning breaches that, it'll send them a notification to their phone. So there's other services out there like it, but that's something that for a much lower cost than the big siren systems that are large investments. I think we could all agree on that. The club sports, you just can't afford that, and it's you can't just transfer and transport that very easily either. So there's systems out there that whether it's mobile devices or other things that are helpful.
I'm in Louisville. We have the biggest fireworks show in America, called Thunder over Louisville. It's 2 weeks before the Derby, in April, Louisville, thunderstorms. I hate it. It makes me nervous. I love to see the sun on that day. I don't want any bad weather. And then 2 weeks, and then for 2 weeks, they have event after event outdoor. They have the Pegasus parades, and they have the Oaks and the Derby, and everyone's outside. And I'm thinking, there's even one thunderstorm for Thunder over Louisville is a problem. I got 800,000 people out on the waterfront. One lightning strike is not good. I mean, people think, well, it's just only going to hit Bob. Well, it might hit Bob and ricochet out 15 other people. I mean, there are some great weather apps, Colin. I think Radar Scope for the basic price is the one that I know. And you gotta have something. I don't care what you use. But the days of being 1990 before Hazelton, don't do that. Have some, yes, sir.
I would challenge everybody to look at where you're going.
Yes.
So that you're trusting, experience, and the guy who got it, you're building my property. Your shelters, and your shelters. Right.
How many people have shelters on their course?
That's a very small number.
And if so, how many? How accessible?
I've got 4 and they all have lightning rods, grounding rods.
Grounding rather.
Yeah, even that is,
Yeah, right.
is not always the solution. From an engineering standpoint, trust me, I went through that whole deal.
Question I'll have just on the fly for courses that have a lot of walkers or don't have carts. Do you have an evacuation plan? Storm comes through, you have 100 golfers out there, caddies, whatnot. You don't want to share a plan they may have, and then you get all those people off timely manner.
Got back to.
Yeah, we have a lot of walkers. We're very limited parts, and we have, plan that's in place.
The pro has in place that involves all his staff that goes out with carts and retrieves all the people off the course. You know, it is harder when you have a full tournament. You know, people will walk in, but we have a whole crew that goes out and does their best to get everybody off.
Did you have sirens too?
No sirens.
Okay.
The air horn and the internet. Not a real good. That's what's great to hear. What these other things out there are. Because a lot of it is. The pro's not a weatherman, but he's been pretty good at it. But it's a gamble sometimes.
And David, put you on the spot, but Lake Winnipesaukee, you want to tell your story about how close you came to a tornado on your property and how the damage is still there this day and how close it came to a direct hit to your clubhouse?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody remembers 2008, tornado came through New Hampshire. We had a couple diners in our dining room, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to my club or not, but we have no wall space, it's all windows. And so we're kind of a thunderstorm alley. All of a sudden it gets really weird outside and turned gray. Didn't turn jet black like Jeff's story. It turned gray, and I couldn't, from my restaurant, I couldn't see the patio anymore. And our superintendent was actually up in our lower parking lot, and I couldn't see his car anymore. And so we're like, all right, this isn't right. Next thing you know, it kind of all passes, and we're watching all this happen, not thinking anything of a tornado. And as it kind of goes by, I was like, when did that birch tree fall down? When did that oak fall down? And you just saw a swath go right through over our 18th hole, jump the road, down our second hole, out the third, and you still see the swatch of pure destruction. And we have some members that live right over the ridge where it went through, and it hit their house as well. There was one foursome out there, and they were at our comfort station, where just restrooms. So those are our shelters, if you will. And a buddy called on the cell phone and said, hey, where are you? There's supposedly a tornado coming through Wolfboro. He's like, oh, we're at Lake Winnie, we're fine. He's like, I don't know, guys. And so the weather changed for them. They got scared. They started coming up the 18th hole right as it came through. We had 4 grown men. 2 of them were hanging on to trees. The other 2 were hanging on to the wheels of a golf cart that felt like it was going to be taken away. So needless to say, it can happen, and pretty scary time for us. Big damage. It affected our business a lot. We had some outings that we had to cancel because of damage, and we couldn't play the course, etc. But thankfully, not sure how it happened, but those 4 guys survived and nobody got hurt, and it can happen. So pay attention to it.
Thank you, David.
That's a wild story.
Any other observations, stories, questions for our panel here? Boyd?
I
But I see a lot on the local weather channels. They used to always say the National Weather Service stuff, but now they say a lot of it, they'll do, like if they're tracking a hurricane, they'll say the National Weather Service models, and then they're always adding the European models now. And that just seems like, I don't know, just something I've seen a lot lately, and I just kind of wonder what that's all about.
I'll start. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, that's interesting. That's a very good observation. You were correct. Yeah, the media have become very weather savvy. Okay. When I took my first broadcast media weather class, I was taught that the average person on TV you're talking to has an 8th grade education. And now you're hearing European models, build density, microbursts, hot boobs, all kinds of weather stuff, right? And it's very interesting. I hope we're conveying, because what Colin said is exactly correct. I was at the state fair and I asked 500 people, which is worse, a watch or a warning? Which is worse, a watch or a warning? Very good. This is an awesome group. And you know how many people got it right at the state fair? 30%. And we're talking about the European model. Crazy. The European model is the Europeans put out a computer model, just like we do. And the European model absolutely nailed Hurricane Sandy 5 days out. Absolutely 100% kicked it in the butt. It was the home run. It was the hole in one. It was the holy grail. It turned it far left. New Jersey had never had a hit from that side ever like that before.
No, and like I think, I mean, it's cool to know, but I mean, it's hard for us Americans to admit that their model is probably more superior than our two that we have, and so it's getting a lot of news because yes, the media is becoming more interested in weather and how it impacts us, but it's because it's notoriously known as being more accurate than what we've got. So they throw those other models in there to give you an idea of how it goes and where things are at.
Weather Service got a bunch of money from Sandy, and they upgraded our model, in the process of upgrading, and it's been performing a lot better lately.
Yep.
But that Sandy thing was a marvel. The American model took that thing out to the Azores. Sandy, European model. It was right. It's like winning the lottery numbers. You just nailed it. It was not good for the director of the Weather Service to see his model get killed.
Yeah.
The Europeans? Yeah. Can I say something about the future?
Floor is yours.
The future, okay. I think the future of weather is going to be really interesting, especially from my side. I think you're going to start to see traffic lights as the norm in weather. I really do. I think you're going to have a 4-color traffic light. Green is good, right? Everyone understands that. No problem. Yellow, you're going to be concerned about whatever that is, fog or snow or hail or whatever. Red, bad, not good. And then the super color is be black or magenta, be very bad, like the 5% of that. I think that, and people understand that, right? If it's green today, it's going to be okay to get the kids out for school. If it's going to be purple, very bad, not good, you know? And, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, not to get into it too much, but the European model, they're very exclusive. The European model is extremely exclusive. They don't have a weather app you can just download. It's extremely expensive to get, and the data is very valuable because they know their work. So, if you, I mean, I guess with that all to say, for the education of everybody, if you see the ECMWF or the Euro model, I mean, it's usually got a pretty good track record. So just keep that in mind. It's general education.
Chris, I wanted to ask a question of Colin, if I could. We spent a lot of time talking about preparing for weather eventualities or uncertainties. But Colin, for the benefit of this group, you work on a regular basis with 2 of the largest club operators in the country. And recently you actually were part of a meeting where you addressed their board of directors. Now, it's not just because you're a pretty face, you obviously were being able to help them impact their bottom line with some of the things that you were sharing with clubs. So why don't you talk a little bit about whether and how you can help them in terms of forecasting, then assist them with their budget.
Yeah. So we work with like you said, Club Core and Century or Arnold Golf. And we help their executives as well as their regional guys to, like I kind of harped on earlier, how do we quantify weather's actual impacts on things that our golf pros understand, which is dollar signs and time, label time and dollar signs or inventory. And so, the big thing is, I think that's surprising is even folks that, are at the top of the industry are struggling with is they've never looked at it before. They've all known that it's been impactful. So things that they're looking at is how do we make agronomical decisions, whether it's, a couple days in advance or a week. I mean, we should pride ourselves probably on the next 14 to 17 days on trends, not exact forecasts, because I'll be the first person to admit that the 4 p.m. forecast on our 21-day forecast is not probably going to be exactly right. But we pride ourselves on finding those big trends. We've been successful in doing that in just this winter, where you have big drops and big gains in temperature that can affect play. I mean, the entire South got killed in November by a week and a half of 20 to 25 degrees below average temperatures, where you should be playing some of the best golf you can. And knowing that 3.5 weeks in advance is extremely valuable for these firms because they can adjust budgets, they can make changes, like I said, ergonomically, whether it's food and beverage changes. We saw the example of the email, so whether it's proactively stocking your pro shop of winter gear, or it's thinking of, somebody said something really creative. Maybe I just don't spend a lot of time in the Northeast, but opening up, you wouldn't do this over one event, but being creative. So they are a country club up here that their ponds freeze over, so they open it up for ice skating. So that's creative thinking of using the weather to your advantage. Where everyone just thinks, okay, November 1st we shut down until the beginning of March. But how do we still find dollars that make sense during the times that maybe the weather's bad? You're right. I'm not going to stop the weather. John's not going to stop the weather. You can. But you can think of ways to actually either save yourself money or try to make money using, strategic marketing. Okay, we know the next 3 days are going to be terrible, but tomorrow is going to be fantastic. So how do we get that out to people when we know that no one's going to turn out the days 2, 3, and 4? So getting them, these kind of executives thinking on that and using our application CourseCast, it helps them see it in a way that they've not been able to see weather, because they've always saw weather as degrees and inches, miles per hour. So now we're speaking their language, which is dollars. So that's kind of something they find extremely valuable.
Any other questions before we do some wrap-up remarks? Kevin?
My question is really to this point. I'd just be interested in hearing a little bit more about what you found out about weather shelters, lightning shelters. It's something that my club is considering, and I don't know if the panel has any expertise on it, but it's weather related, so I thought I'd throw it out there to ask.
So what ended up happening at our property? They went to a
Comfort station. 19 guys, my guys working in the morning, getting ready for an outing, and it hit a tree next to it, pouring rain, came down and blew them right off the floor. 7 ambulances, 6 hospitals. I mean, it was a mess. Everybody was okay in the long run after months of rehab. But as far as shelters go, really what came back is the clubhouse. Nothing is safe. Nothing is 100%. Anything can get hit. But the bigger the building, and the more, most of our maintenance buildings are all metal. And what do the guys do but hang out and smoke cigarettes in the doorway with the door wide open during a thunderstorm? So we just make sure everybody's in the break room and check everybody off the list. We don't go rounding them up. Everybody, we have a weather app that texts everybody when it's 30 miles out, and everybody heads in. That's it. And if we don't get the place ready, we don't get the place ready. That's all there is to it. But shelter-wise, you got to get it engineered. You gotta really bring in an engineer and spend money on it if you're gonna do a sheltered blackout.
Second.
Just one quick question, almost like a temporary or mobile safety place. I mean, is a car or a pickup truly a safe place to be?
Like, yeah, not from a tornado. Not from a tornado. There's been people, I mean, people just do this crazy stuff. Huh? I mean, why would you, I'm gonna use my thin convertible and go out in the middle and then be protected. And there's one, remember the Tampa Bay Green Bay game? Remember what happened in the parking lot for the tailgaters? Just about 8 weeks, right? Yeah. They had a thin sunroof, half open, and there's thunder and lightning out there. And it blew out the sunroof. Yeah. They were, a whole bunch were injured, right? So you're not, a whole bunch were injured. So, well, yeah, close everything up, remain calm, stay there, do not get out, do not pass out.
So before we get to some closing remarks, just some takeaways, some action plans I noted. Feel free, all of you, to chime in after, but if you don't have a weather plan, get one and collaborate it and communicate it with all members of your staff. Have a resource system that you use consistently, whatever it's App XYZ or whatever resource you have, and figure out how you're going to notify people and how you're going to evacuate, not just the golf course, but people can be stuck by lightning playing tennis. They can obviously be hitting the pool. We've seen that, unfortunately. People could be dining under an awning and be struck by lightning. So have a plan and realize that bad things can and do happen, and don't assume that they won't. So, any closing remarks, gentlemen, before we wrap up?
One thing I'd throw out real quick, we have an advantage having put so much time and effort and a lot of resources into our championships, but we know how long it's going to take to evacuate the golf course. We have our vehicles strategically placed, and we know they only have to walk so far to get into one. And I know you're not going to get everybody off your golf courses. We know there are big-headed golfers that aren't real smart, but you should know how long it's going to take to evac and figure out when you're going to blow the whistle based on the time it takes you to get the course evacuated. I don't know if you do that, but if you don't, put it in the equation.
And then where do they go? Yeah. So, I mean, the thing are, right, is how are we alerted? How fast is, or how slow does it take us to evacuate? And then where do they go? And then when do we know it's safe? There's literally 4 things. And I think, speaking from the younger generation, it's technology, there's no excuse from a technology standpoint not to, whether you have a big budget or a small budget, not to be aware of 4 easy steps, right? And, Dave, anybody would be, there's a million of you guys that have great steps in place that would, be willing to collaborate on different thoughts and ideas and things that work. Don't let this pass and not think about it.
Chris, I thought you summarized it nice. The plan of action is probably the biggest part of this whole discussion. I think if you don't come away and have some plan of action, you're making a big, very foolish mistake. The second thing is, I cannot begin to tell you the number of stories of golfers who got drowned on golf carts trying to cross a stream, golfers struck by lightning, workers at golf courses that were struck by flying debris from a windstorm. Weather is very humbling, and your safety and your staff safety is the most important thing to me. So by God, do the things that we suggested, and you will have a big smile on your face. Because at your club, if you don't do this and the bad thing happens, your life's going to not be good. It's not going to be good.
On that note, John, Dave, Colin, thank you for your insight, your expertise, and for joining us today. So, we're going to take our last break, and we will reconvene at 2:35. And we are ahead of schedule. Down the road.